Welcome to the 2021 National Championships for Hard Enduro, held at Tenterfield in New South Wales. So the event was organised by Grassroots, and it was quite an event with over 300 riders, national teams, Sherco, Beta, Gas, KDM. Now I'm riding the bronze class, and the previous day I qualified in the top half, which was quite okay. I didn't realise until this event how important the prologue was. I should have ridden a lot faster to get up in front because there were a lot of bottlenecks from riders stuck on the track. As you'll see as we progress along, there were sections where riders just couldn't get through and it would cause massive delays. This particular gully is very steep and a lot of people crashed on the bottom. I was able to sneak around and gain a few places. And there's another bottleneck around this corner here. I was a little bit cheeky and took an alternative line. That's the event, isn't it? But anyway, we didn't want to make too many people upset. So I'm testing an electric bike, and this is, I don't know of any national level events like this where an electric bike has entered. I was allowed to enter on an exhibition purpose, and the purpose was to really see if an electric bike could keep up with traditional bikes. You know, there was lots of skepticism as to whether it would get up the hills, whether it was capable enough. Now, this electric bike is not a standard Sur-ron, and now Sur-ron's only a $5,000 electric bike. This has been modified by my company. We've added a few performance parts that we manufacture and boosted up quite a bit, and that's for another video. But you can see as we progress, this is the first section of the enduro. It's quite hard and there are a lot of riders getting stuck. Obviously the GoPro doesn't show how steep things are, but this is steep and rocky. Again, I was a bit cheeky and snuck around a few riders here that were stuck. So as we progress, now this section quite a few people were stuck. It was rocks and slightly slippery soil. Again, I was able to sneak past a few. You've really got to watch out for those wet logs on an angle. It can be a bit tricky. Now at this point here, this guy, he actually saved it quite well. Flipped over and grabbed on while he could. I went through the middle here, just quite slowly, got around him. That was quite okay. And again, we're off. And now we start a descent, and the descent was quite steep. Really had to be careful of drop-offs and ledges that caught you off guard. Again, people getting stuck was quite common. There's a section in front that we're coming up to, and there was a huge bottleneck. It was really just an off-camber log that a lot of people bailed out on. And again, around the corner here, there was a section where a rider had got stuck and no one could get around him. In hindsight, because this was, this wasn't really a race for me, it was just a test run, I think it'd be quite easy just to get around these riders, take a slightly alternative course. You're allowed to deviate within a few meters of the main track. Obviously, a lot of time's lost by just sitting there single file, waiting for riders to get off and go around. So as we're going down this descent, we're going to go down to a gully section, which is a V-shaped gully which doesn't allow passing, which is quite a shame because there are a lot of riders stuck in this section. I was able to get around a few, but truthfully you had to sit there and wait your turn. A little bit disappointing. If you in the back of the pack, you're stuck there. So as we go around here, there's a little bit of a muddy patch, but we're going to drop into a sort of a gully that you really, as I said, are forced to ride. Now this electric bike, basically it's running aftermarket gear, which allows it to have a bit better performance. It has a 10 kilowatt motor. which for this event was quite good. You don't really need that much power, too much power, and you're really just breaking traction. So an interesting thing with the electric bike is that while there's not gas bikes around, you can actually hear the tires and what they're doing. You can hear if it starts to spin. So that's your traction control, is your ear. Now, because it doesn't have a clutch, that does cause a few issues. A lot of riders were saying, well, what about a clutch? You know, how can you fine tune and control? Well, it is a bit more difficult because with a clutch you're going to soften the load on your motor very incrementally when you need to. What you have to learn on an electric bike is to use your throttle to back off and use your ear to hear and your feelings to feel how your bike's responding. Now, this section of the track was really jammed up. So this was quite a steep drop off, and you had to go over a couple of logs and a slippery section, but there were riders down here with broken bikes. One guy had smashed his rear sprocket and he was stuck in there. I was able to get through okay. Like at this point here, it's only vertical, you're nearly going to go over the bar, so I opted just to hop off and wheel it down that section. Safety first. And then sneak around here, and then we're back into the gully where we really were stuck. I think through this section, I suspect that some riders may have been stuck for half an hour plus. This ledge here, a lot steeper and worse than it looks, probably 6 foot drop off. Didn't want to risk my suspension on that because I am a bit under suspended. But lower to the ground makes it easier in other areas, so a little bit of compromise. Started to get fairly muddy here, not real deep, probably 12 inches. Again, snaking through this gully. That was a lot of fun. I wish I had a clean run at this. That'd be a great course to run. So we're going to come up to a creek section fairly soon. This is an open section up a hill, and we're going to drop back into a creek section which starts to get rockier and a little bit trickier and a bit wet, slippery. Again, there are quite a few riders stuck in these sections. The rocks would catch you out. Now, the electric bike goes well in water, no issues. At one point, I think I nearly had it up to the seat in one of the latter sections of the creek that we'll come to after this section. So we're winding back up the ridge. Now, this is on the Great Dividing Range, which I think our elevation was probably around 1,000 meters, so to be snow country in winter. This is summer, of course, being down under. At this point, I'd seem to clear a lot of riders, and at some point soon, I think the silver track, here, silver starts to join up with us, and there are a few, pretty fast riders that got past me. This little steep uphill section had a few gnarly spots as well. A few people were stuck. Took a little bit of a sideline. Got up surprisingly. Didn't want to risk that off-camber log. So once we're at the top of this ridge, we're going to descend again back into the creek. Oh, this little guy, he was fast. He looked like a junior rider. He was doing really well. Yeah, we're descending down back into the creek. Now, unfortunately, with this event, it was red flagged less than halfway in. One of our top level gold class riders had a serious medical issue. Well, no one's really sure at this stage what happened, whether he actually had a heart issue or a brain issue. It doesn't appear to have been a crash. But he had to be airlifted out, so the whole event was red flagged and stopped. So no one finished, basically everyone DNF'd. So we're heading back across the ridge. Oh, that creek was a lot further out than I thought. So at this stage we're probably an hour into the event, a little bit over. A few silver riders coming through. Okay, we're stuck here back at the creek again. So this creek for the electric bike, as I said, was quite okay. There were some deep spots. I took a few lines which, as I said, ended up being nearly up to my seat. I should have really taken alternative lines. Didn't hurt it. Probably the bigger issue was it's slightly lower ground clearance than a traditional bike. Even though we've got our HDP bash plates on there, we were using them and sliding over a lot of the rocks or smacking into them. So that was a little bit of a challenge, but it went quite okay. In hindsight, I probably should have just been a bit more brave and used a bit more momentum. This point here was quite deep, spun around. Came over this corner and there's a steep drop off. Actually just fell off at this point. Got back on, passed a few more riders. So we're nearly at the end of this creek. Now what was going to happen was there's a steep section on the other side of the valley which zigzags up and down the hill, and there are some massive long hills that catch a lot of people out. So this is where we're crossing across the valley. A few spectators here on the end of the course cheering on. Didn't hear me coming, caught them by surprise, I think. So we're starting to go up one of the first steep long hills. I'm not sure the name of it. Could have been the Clench. This is where it was suspected, my bike wouldn't be as good. Now it made it up quite okay. What I had to be careful of was overheating, so on this particular bike I had boosted up the cooling quite a bit. So overall, very happy with the performance. I think I would have actually placed quite well if the event had kept going, because I was able to pass a lot of people in my class, which was quite good. I was really only there just to prove if an electric bike could actually, keep up, do the job, and I think that was done quite well. Experience would say we'd probably do better with a bit of extra planning. So this is quite a steep descent here. Now on the bike I've got regen braking, which does help, and because there's no clutch and no gears, I think forearm pump was quite good. I didn't get any forearm pump. Quite easy to manage, only had to concentrate on the throttle and steering and body position. So there wasn't anything on the track that the bike wasn't capable of achieving.